Iha samsare bahu dustare kripaya pare pahi murare. The Acharya has stressed the need for prayer. There are 3 stages. You are either in a position where you think of yourself as the body. Then you will need a statue. Talk about it. Think about that God. The more you do, the more you connect. Do the worship. Go to the temple. If you do this on a daily basis, you will connect with that God. It is a very difficult, shoreless ocean, and no matter how much effort we do, we cannot guarantee we'll cross that ocean of life. So the prayer is very important. Self-realization is God realization, has minimum dependence on society, enjoys life like a child or a madman. Now please understand, many people misunderstand this Bhaja Govindam. They think that Bhaja Govindam is saying, or Adi Shankaracharya is saying, don't enjoy, don't create money, don't enjoy life, don't enjoy. No. Enjoy knowing that this will not last, and knowing that this will not, when you are up against a terrible calamity, it may not come to your rescue. But what will come to your rescue is that connection with that unchangeable consciousness which controls your mind, and through your mind controls your sense organs, and through your sense organs controls your entire experience of the world and reality. Only a prepared and a purified mind can seek the purpose of life. The world basically is a projection of the mind. When the mind ends or is dissolved, the world also dissolves. And the example is, into us in a common world, is deep sleep. Wherever there is a vision of difference, there is fear, anger, greed, pride, envy, and jealousy. But we don't seek it. Hence, seek Govinda, that reminder constantly at the beginning of a verse, at the end of the verse. You will not know how to use that power. So that is why here it's saying that. So Bhaja Govindam is also called Moha Mudgara. Moha is delusion. Mudgara is a hammer. The hammer that destroys the delusions of what? Or illusions of what? Of who we really are and the nature of the world. So it's a very simple formula they give. Adi Shankaracharya has given, seek Govinda. And I don't want to go too much into the history of it, but basically Adi Shankaracharya was in the banks of river Ganges in Banaras with 14 of his disciples, and he saw one of these pandits just memorizing the rules of grammar, and he felt so bad that this, here is not an ordinary person, a pandit no less, and all he's doing is by rote just memorizing the rules of grammar. And he then spontaneously, this Bhaja Govindam came out of him. Original 12 verses are attributed to Adi Shankaracharya, where he says, don't do this. This is not the way that you will get control over your life. Then each of his disciples, 14 of them, added one verse. And then finally, there are 4 verses that Adi Shankaracharya added. So these are just administrative part of it. We don't need to worry about that. Let's dive right into the text. The simple solution he gives is seek Govinda. Worship Govinda, seek Govinda. Now we must understand these 2 words, because herein lies all the answers. First of all, what is Govinda? Because most people think it is a Hindu god Vishnu. But no, when the rishis give a certain name, they have a very specific purpose. And Govinda is broken up into 2 words, Go and Vinda. Go is our indriyas, our sense organs, and Vinda is one who has internal control over it, because we experience the world in a good and in a difficult way through our sense organs. When we are not aware, when we are not trained, our sense organs drive us. We are driven by our sense organs, and that is where the pain and suffering comes. But Govinda is that power. Once we connect with it, first we must understand, then we must attempt to connect with it. And that once we connect with that power, we will control our experience of the world. That doesn't mean we will stop enjoying the world. We will enjoy it as long as it benefits us. When it doesn't, we drop it. And why is that important? Because most people ask me this question, oh, why is it so important? I like enjoying the world. Enjoyment over which you have no control. Imagine sitting on a roller coaster. At first, it's fun, the ups and downs. But imagine if you're getting a headache or a migraine or a nausea and you're not able to get out of it. That is what this track, Adi Shankaracharya is wanting us to understand, that enjoy it. But when you think that enough is enough, you must have the power to step out of it. So the first words of the text are Bhaja Govindam. meaning worship Govinda. And the final words of the text of Bhaja Govindam is Drakshasi Nija Hridayastam Devam, meaning realize the Lord seated in your own heart. So Bhaja Govindam is a journey to realize the Lord in our own heart. This God principle must be really understood, because everybody stumbles. The modern mind stumbles on the God principle. I don't want to be religious. I don't believe in God. If I do good things, that's good enough. God is not a person out there. In fact, when Lord Ram asked Hanuman, what is our relationship? Because Lord Ram is the Paramatma, that supreme consciousness, supreme power. And Hanumanji represents this human mind which is perfected. So Hanumanji said, there are 3 levels of connection, Lord. When I am in my body consciousness, I am a servant, you are the Lord. So you see the Lord as different from you out there. When I am in my mind consciousness, I am part of you. And when I'm in my spirit consciousness, I am you. So depending on where we are in this journey, each of us is in a different journey. If we cannot get out of the fact that we are the body, we will worship Govinda or that supreme principle as an idol or a murti or a concept that is outside of us. And there's nothing wrong. That is the beginning point. But there will come a point when we will go within, and then we will see God everywhere else. It is not just contained in a statue or an idol. It is in everybody, in a plant world, mineral world. Finally, we will realize that Govinda inside us. And Govinda is just a name denoting getting control over our sense organs through which we enjoy and experience the world. It is not a Hindu God. So if there is anybody here who is not a Hindu, can switch that with any word or form of that supreme power they are accustomed to. So it is not just God, not just Hindu God. And this also principle you must understand. Ordinary people, we all look for God out there. We are chanting all these mantras, thinking there's a power out there, and somehow we are begging for something. Then comes Gandhiji. People like Gandhiji, who saw God in everybody. It was an advancement or growth of his awareness. Then comes, when the awareness grows even more, Buddha, where he realized he is God himself. So our ultimate goal is to find that Lord within us. The last line that I read of the Bhaja Govindam. So basically, when we are saying Bhaja Govindam, it is seek that power. If you don't know that the power is within you, then seek the power outside. Slowly, you will see it everywhere, and then it will ultimately, you'll realize it inside. Why seek Govinda? Why is that is the first question that will come to mind. Because there is something inside us that can never be happy with limited, small joys and happiness. We want infinity, immortality. We want it all. And we must realize that as long as we are expecting and depending on the worldly objects and people to give us that joy, it is bound to disappoint us, and we will never find that joy. So we have to basically, what are we looking for? Happiness, peace, security, and prosperity. And we are looking for it in outside objects. This text tells us that these are limited things. There are ultimately only 2 things in the world. And idam, I, that consciousness that we in Vedanta is called Sat, Chit, Ananda, and the world of objects. And the way these 2 connect is through our sense organs and mind. So this text, this Bhaja Govindam, is asking us to do it with this connection should be done under your control, not mindlessly. The objects are dragging you into the world, but you are engaging with the objects and dropping it. I'll give one example. When, you know how they catch monkeys in India, at least in India, I've heard this. They put, go to the jungle and they put a banana inside, several bananas inside a bottle. And the monkey comes and grabs and goes away. And at one point, when the monkey tries to grab it and he sees the poacher coming and his hand gets stuck, he has an option to drop that banana and go. He will be free. But no, his greed gets the better of him and he's desperately trying to get that banana. In the meanwhile, the poacher comes and traps him. Same with us. When we enjoy the objects of the world, it's okay. Eat the banana, all the banana you want. But when those objects or people or experience start giving you pain, suffering, and disease, we must know how to drop it. And this is what it teaches us. So instead of being a slave to our mind, we are trying to, through this text, we are being advised to master our mind and senses. And excuse me, there's this example that I had heard a long time ago that, when you are given a bottle and you're given some big stones, a jar, you're giving some big stones and a bag of sand, and asked, how would you fill this? Some people start with filling it with sand, and then they try to fit in the stone, it doesn't. But if you start with the stone, the big rocks in the jar, and then you put the sand, the sand will find its way. So that rock represents this seeking Govinda, the ultimate life principle, that Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat is that which doesn't change. Chit is that which we are conscious of the fact that it doesn't change. And the Ananda, the bliss that comes from knowing you are that. Your body is constantly changing. Your mind is constantly changing. The only thing that is not changing is your awareness. Once you're aware of that, you will get Ananda, bliss, which is, what is bliss? Bliss is, as soon as you fulfill a desire, that momentary satisfaction. But if you can extend that satisfaction, knowing that I can have anything I want at will, but not, that thing is not going to possess me. I'm going to possess that. So that is the meaning of Ananda, understanding that thing, that power. And that is called, instead of God being a human being, you start thinking in Vedanta, Sat, Chit, Ananda. Which part of me is unchanging? I must bring awareness to that, and the bliss that comes from knowing that power is within me. Because if you don't, then there is this contradiction. We talked about it. Sukha is comfort, Shanti is peace, and they are constantly inversely related. There is an innate contradiction between wanting permanent happiness from the objects which are by their very nature impermanent, fluid, and transient. So your choice, this book is telling you, is between permanent happiness, Ananda, and momentary happiness. And you will have to choose. All the Upanishad texts talk about that. Prayas and Shreyas. Short-term gratification, long-term fulfillment. Now this thing, so we talked about why Govinda. Third one is, what does bhaja mean? We even touched about it in the introductory session. Bhaja can mean worship, chant, or even, some sort of rituals. But there is actually a very specific, when here they're talking about Bhaja Govindam, there are 9 forms of connecting with that power. And each of us are already doing that. 1, 2, 3, some of them, but all 9 we have to try ultimately to connect with it. And I will give you a small example. The difference between bhaja can also mean love. Love is at a human level. Bhakti or devotion is at a divine level. So this bhaja means love that power, connect and love with that power. The first one, it's called Navada Bhakti, Navavidha Bhakti, 9 types of bhakti, which was first started with Prahalad. Prahalad is the one who talked about this. First one is Shravana, constantly listening about that power. So compare this with the human love and divine devotion. So when you love somebody, what is it that, how do you connect with that person? You constantly want to hear things about that person, right? That is called Shravana. Secondly, Kirtanam, constantly talking about that person. That's what when we are madly in love, we only want to hear about that person. We only want to talk about that person. Third is Smaranam. Smaranam is constantly thinking about that person when you're madly in love. Then Pada Sevanam, which is, serving the feet of that person. It is a symbolic meaning, which means dissolving your ego. When we serve somebody's feet, we dissolve our own ego. We don't matter, they matter more than us. Then Archanam. Archanam is worship, but basically in an ordinary love, what would Archanam mean? Archanam means giving the best that you have, the best food, the best clothes, the best seat, the best position, the best, everything you have, the best, you would offer it to that person. Then comes Vandanam. glorifying that person. Wherever there is an opportunity, you want to say how great that person is that you're in love with, whether it is to your friends or your family. Then comes dasyam. You're willing to do everything for them. People even ask, how come you're doing their laundry, cooking for them, cleaning for them? That is ordinary love. Then comes Sakhyam. Sakhyam is friendship. That love matures to a place where you can share everything with that person. And only then the final act comes, which is Atma Nivedanam. Totally surrendering yourself or offering yourself totally. Now, this is at a human level I'm talking. Now, translate that or extrapolate that to a divine level. Like I said, if there are 3 stages, you are either in a position where you think of yourself as the body, then you will need a statue and an idol. So then think of an idol, whoever appeals to you. You don't have to go all over the world searching for religions and idols. Whoever you connect with, it is out there, and you do at least one, preferably more than one, and ideally all of them, which is constantly hear about that, about Vedanta, about your chosen God. Talk about it. Kirtanam is singing and talking about it. Smaranam, think about that God. The more you do, the more you connect. Pada Sevanam, humble yourself. Give up your ego, said not my will, but your will. Then comes Archana, do the worship, go to the temple, do the worships. Then comes Vandanam, glorify it, talk about it. We are so ashamed to talk about our religion because everywhere it's been told that religion is so bad, you can't talk about it in public places. In the name of your God, serve people, human beings, animals, plant world, anything. Then comes Sakhyam. There will come a time, if you do this on a daily basis, you will connect with that God, like Mirabai, like Kabir Das, like all the great devotees of all religions and all eras. You will actually start talking with your God, and you cannot understand that now if you have not established that relationship. But when you do, you can talk to anybody who says that I get my answers. I talk to my God and the answers come to me. And then comes the Atma Nivedanam. You cannot totally dedicate yourself, surrender yourself right now unless you have done these previous 8 things. So please start to do that. That is the Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja part of it. And if you're in a body consciousness, you see that in the form of a god or a temple in a idol. If you are saying, okay, I know I'm not my body, but the mind, you're giving so much importance to the mind, then the mind is in everybody, because body, we know there is a separation. That's why if you have a body consciousness, you don't need an idol. But if you have ideas, you need ideals. So live up to these ideals. Whoever you are serving, whoever you're doing anything, think you're serving your God. And finally, you will come to a stage where you can feel the God within you through meditation. But you can't start with meditation if you have not done that for a long period of time. So any questions here? Anybody has any questions? Why? What is Bhaja Govindam? Then what is Govindam? God. God is not just a particular religion, a particular deity, or particular name. It's the supreme power, however you are accustomed to whichever form and name. But ultimately understand, you first see it outside, then you see it in one place, then you see it in everybody and everything, and then finally you will experience it within yourself. Now, this Bhaja, we will start reciting and go paragraph by paragraph by verse, but it starts with the person, Adi Shankaracharya, looking at that Pandit and saying that don't waste your time repeating and I wrote the worldly knowledge, but invest time in spiritual knowledge. What is spiritual knowledge? Spirit precedes matter and controls matter. So that is why spiritual knowledge is so important. But one thing people get confused, and they ask me, but it's not going to save me from death. No, spiritual knowledge will not save you from death. It will save you from the fear of death, whether it is your own death or death of your loved ones. If you understand what you're dealing with, it has been proven that if you invest enough time and connect with this power, the fear of death will go, and you will develop slowly, step by step, fearlessness. Another thing it will help you with is remove the kleshas. Kleshas are the modifications in our understanding of reality. There are 5 basic kleshas mentioned in Hanuman Chalisa also. It says remove the kleshas. There are five kleshas. First is avidya, our ignorance. Mati, mudha is ignorant, mati is mind. So our ignorance of who we are and what is the world. We don't realize our power and we give all the power to the objects of the world. So avidya is the first modification that will be removed once you invest time in this text and all Vedantic texts. Two will be asmita. Asmita is ego. Because of that ignorance, we think we are different, the rest of the world is different. That is where the pain comes. That if somebody wins, we lose. If we win, somebody loses. So you will remove avidya. You will know who you are, your true nature. Asmita, ego, ahankara, I'm separate from the world, or that power is separate from me. Then the third modification is raga dvesha. When you think you are separate from that power and separate from the world, then the concepts of I like this and I don't like this, craving, aversion, that will go, because you are everything, you will realize. And then goes after raga dvesha, what you will lose is abhinivesha. Abhinivesha is fear of death, because the soul never dies. All the Vedas, all the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita keeps saying that. This brings it yet another time. Only the body dies, but unless you understand that, that fear of death will always plague you. So these things you will get. And another test, what spiritual knowledge will do for you is, it's called FIR. F is, once you keep on reading and understanding this and practicing this, F is the frequency of negative moods will reduce. I, intensity will reduce. R, recovery will be faster. So that is your litmus test. If after doing this, those three things don't happen, then you're not doing something right. Then you go back to the bhaja. Which of these 9 things, what more can you add to your practice? So the frequency, the intensity, and the recovery of negative from negative mood should improve. Now, when we start on a spiritual practice, like we talked last time, there are 3 major obstacles a seeker will always encounter. One is like Hanumanji encountered when he crossed over the ocean to find Sita. One is Mainaka. Well-meaning, ill-informed friends and relatives telling you it's not the time, there are better things to do. Beware of them. And the solution for that is just pay lip service, but do what you need to do, because we all came alone. We'll all go alone. Nobody's advice, when they don't know what they're advising, it only gets you more and more trapped in the sufferings of the world. Second will be surasa, which is basically our responsibilities in the world. There are we are born, we are either a child or a spouse, or we have a professional capacity. So those you must do to the best of your ability, but all your time cannot go into that. You have to carve out time for your spiritual growth. So there you negotiate how much time you set aside for your responsibilities, your dharma, and how much time you can create for your spiritual growth. But ultimately, that is what is going to save you. Finally will come Simhika. These are our vasanas. These are the conditionings of our mind that we have got from many, many lifetimes. That is called the shadow self. We are not aware of it. The fear, the jealousy, the anger, the lust, the greed, the pride, the ego, these will hold us back. But once you're aware, and these texts will remind you, beware of these. Only when you read, when you see the red flag, will you know what you should watch out for and working on them. So how do we do this? Again, Shravanam, there are only 3 methods. Listen to these texts, think about it after the listening part is over, and put it into practice. And we normally get trapped in the world because in one of the Upanishads, I think Isavasya Upanishads, they talk about it, that the truth is covered by a golden lid. And most of the time when we start going for the truth, what happens is we get caught with the glitter of the lid and come back without getting the truth. And this book will tell us what are those lids that stop you from actually opening and revealing the truth being revealed to you. One more story I will say before we start this practice is, there was a well-educated and even rich, a person who was taking a boat in the Ganges. And, he was obviously very proud of his education, his knowledge, his wealth, his whatever connections. And he asked the boatman, do you know about science and astronomy and astrology and all that? He said, no, sir, I don't know. Do you know about the world affairs? No, sir, I don't know. Do you know at least poetry, dance, and all this literature? No, sir, I don't know. Do you know how to read and write? No, sir, I don't know. So finally, while they were talking, a big storm came. And then the boatman asked this person, sir, do you know how to swim? He says, no, I don't know. And you know what happened to that person at the end of it. So this story, this text is telling us that all the secular knowledge of the world is important. Nobody's saying throw it away. But unless you know how to swim across the ocean of life, all that knowledge will not help you when the time comes. So that's what it is.